I wanted to make a few comments about the final exam. So first of all, the final exam is not going to be too long. It will be, about the length of a final exam. I'm calling it an exam, but I think it's maybe better to call it a project, not because it's long, but because it's kind of open book, open friends, open internet, open everything. The only thing you're pretty much not allowed to do is copy and paste. You have to write solutions in your own words no matter what. Chances are you'll have to figure out many things on your own. You won't be able to rely on others for everything. So the reason I'm giving you 36 hours is not so I can ask you millions of very hard questions, but just for your own convenience, so that you can choose when to sit down and do the exam, and so that you can, if you're going to meet up with some people to work together on problems, you can have some flexibility as to when you meet up. So you can imagine it's like a 3-hour thing, but it's extended to 36 hours. Make sure that you at least have a look at it as soon as it's released, so that you can get a sense for what, how long it might take you, and plan accordingly. Let's see. So the types of questions that will be asked. So some of them will be pretty much just old exercises that have been assigned. So I'm never going to go to an exercise that has not been assigned. So some questions will be old exercises that have been assigned with some modifications, so that it's not just pure copying of old solutions. Some questions will not be old exercises, but they will be asking you to do something that you haven't done before, but using old techniques. Techniques that you would have learned from doing exercises. So in terms of studying for the final exam or project or whatever you want to call it, I would recommend making sure, well, first of all, make sure you do the latest homework 10, the one for this week and for the recent material. And if that's done, make sure you go back and do any ungraded problems that you missed the first time through. And that I imagine not everybody has done all of the ungraded assigned problems, so that will probably take some time, and I think that will be the best source of practice. That's the source material that I'm creating the questions from. If you are done with that and you want to do something more, as you review the theorems that are available, which is a good thing to do, even if it's an open book style exam, it's still good to be aware of what's available so that you have a sense for what to use in different situations, so that you're not just searching through unrelated facts every time you try to solve a problem, but rather you have a connected network of facts in your brain that you can easily search for the right thing at the right time. So as you review theorems, I recommend trying to the extent that you have time, trying to prove them yourself instead of just reading through their proofs, or instead of just reading the theorems. So if you try to prove theorems yourself, even without writing things down, just in your head, then not only will it give you a grounding in the techniques used for those theorems, but it will also sort of solidify in your mind the dependency structure of the theorems, which theorem depends on what. That will really help you know when you're seeing a random question on the exam, what sorts of tools you should be thinking of using. One thing that I think is different about a final exam question versus a homework question is that with a homework question, you study a bunch of material and then you get a homework question kind of about that material. So you know what the homework question is about. You know that it's going to use the tools that you just learned about, right? because the homework question is there for a reason. It's there to give you a chance to use the tools you just learned about. But for an exam question, for a cumulative exam like this one, it could be using any of the tools from the course. So you have to figure out where to look in the course, in the entire course, to find the right techniques. So this is why I think it's good to, when you're studying, catalog the theorems in your mind by understanding how they depend on each other in their proofs. Okay, again, this is something to do after you're already good on all of the ungraded homework problems and on the most recent homework. So the reason the exam is open friends, open notes, is I think if I didn't make it that way, people would still, some people would still just do that, right? And we graders would have no way of knowing, and that would just be unfair for the people who did their own honest work. So the idea is to prevent cheating by allowing cheating. So basically you're allowed to cheat, just don't literally copy and paste. That way I think it's fair. If you're worried that this might be unfair to you because maybe others have friends in the course and you don't, so you have no one to work with, then, well, I mean, you should be able to do things on your own, but also you can use CampusWire to try to make contacts. There's a chat room feature that I haven't used very much, but you're welcome to use that. You can share whatever information you want, or you can just use it to make contacts if you don't know anyone in the course, and meet up in person or meet up remotely, or use whatever platform you want. So I encourage that, but I'm not planning to make such hard of an exam. I'm not planning to make so hard of an exam that that's required. It should be doable for an individual student who has kept up with the material more or less. So here is a map of kind of what we've done in the course. We started with basically nothing, just an idea about constructing languages, and we built up logic, not completely formally, but we built it up alongside a system for writing mathematical arguments. And then we hit a transition point in the course where we started doing set theory, and we did that for the rest of the course. And here are some highlights. These are basically all the topics we covered. Sets, different ways of constructing sets with different notations. At some point we hit functions, the natural numbers and induction and recursion, addition, which got us started a little bit with arithmetic, and the last thing we did was cardinality. So we hit all of these topics. Now, I think that's basically an overview of the course. I think that's basically it. If you take math courses later on, unfortunately, it's very unlikely that you're just gonna continue from here. Different math courses will have different needs in terms of background, and they'll assume that you have a general foundation from Math 8, but there's no way to provide kind of a foundation in Math 8 that fulfills the needs of every possible next course you could take. So in later courses, you'll find a big gap that you need to fill in, and other courses will take different paths from here with a big gap in the middle. So you might find yourself if you take later math courses, you will definitely find yourself using the ideas from this course, but you'll also find yourself noticing that there's something missing that needs to be filled in. Sometimes they make it clear to you what it is you need to know. Sometimes they'll just cover it very quickly. Sometimes they will not make it so clear. So I hope that you will feel free to get in touch with me and if you want to, ask me if you want to figure out how to relate things that you're doing in later courses to things that you've learned in this course. All right, and that's it. It's been my pleasure, and I hope you have a good spring break.